The 2026 season hasn't even started yet, and we already have the first major controversy. Mercedes and Red Bull have discovered a loophole in the new engine regulations that could hand them a significant advantage over everyone else. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi are absolutely furious, and now the FIA has hinted at what might happen next. Let's understand what Mercedes and Red Bull actually did. The 2026 regulations establish a compression ratio limit of 16:1, measured when the engine is static, meaning when it's not running and at ambient temperature. But here's where things get clever. Mercedes engineers found a way to increase that compression ratio to approximately 18:1 when the engine is actually running on track. They achieved this through thermal expansion. When the engine heats up during operation, certain components expand. Mercedes designed the connecting rod to expand in a very specific way when hot, pushing the piston higher into the cylinder, effectively increasing the compression ratio beyond what static tests measure. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything. Let's first understand what Mercedes and Red Bull actually accomplished. The 2026 regulations set a compression ratio limit of 16:1. This is measured when the engine is static, meaning not running and at ambient temperature. But here's where it gets brilliant. Mercedes engineers discovered a method to boost that compression ratio to roughly 18:1 when the engine is actually operating on track. They achieved this through thermal expansion principles. When the engine heats up during running, certain components naturally expand. Mercedes specifically designed the connecting rod, the part linking the piston to the crankshaft, to expand in a very particular way when hot. This expansion pushes the piston higher into the cylinder, effectively increasing the compression ratio beyond what static testing measures. Higher compression means more power from each combustion cycle. Estimates suggest this trick delivers between 10 and 15 extra horsepower. That might not sound like much, but in Formula 1, where races are decided by tenths of a second, this translates to approximately a quarter second per lap. Over a full race distance, this is an enormous advantage that could be the difference between winning and finishing off the podium. Red Bull grasped this concept through an engineer hired from Mercedes. They've implemented something similar, though reportedly they're still trying to catch up to the team that invented the concept. This means Mercedes probably has the most refined version of the technology. Now here's where it becomes fascinating. Mercedes didn't try to hide what they were doing. They approached the FIA from the beginning to ensure their interpretation complied with regulations. They were completely transparent about their design. The FIA examined it and essentially said it was legal because it doesn't violate the written rules. This is a crucial point. The regulations state the compression ratio must be 16:1 when measured. They don't specify it must remain at 16:1 during operation. Mercedes read the rules, found a gap, and exploited it. This is Formula 1 in its purest form. It's what the best teams have always done. But not everyone sees it this way. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi aren't happy. They've been pressuring the FIA to do something about it. Ferrari has even hinted at filing a formal protest at the season opener in Melbourne. They believe this interpretation goes against the spirit of regulations, even if it technically respects the letter of the law. So, what will the FIA do about it? Here we arrive at the most important part of this story. Journalist Giuliana Sarasoli reported that the FIA gave her a clue about their intentions. Speaking on her YouTube channel, she said the governing body told her that someone has read something in the regulations that wasn't what we wrote. It's a significant statement. The FIA is essentially admitting that Mercedes and Red Bull found an interpretation they didn't intend to allow. But here's the thing, admitting this and actually banning it are two very different matters. Sarasoli believes the loophole will eventually be banned, but not immediately. She explained the commercial reality Formula 1 faces. Absolute dominance is very bad commercially for Formula 1, she said. Today there's this notion that I want to win, but I want everyone else to win, because if everyone wins, my slice of pie will become even bigger. We increase the pie for everyone because my slice will get bigger if that happens. This is modern Formula 1 philosophy. The sport needs competitive racing to attract viewers, sponsors, and new fans. If Mercedes and their customer teams dominate the entire season because of this engine advantage, it's bad for business. Liberty Media, the commercial rights holder, won't be pleased. The other manufacturers won't be pleased. And eventually the FIA will face pressure to level the playing field. But banning something mid-season is complicated. Mercedes and Red Bull designed their entire 2026 power units around this concept. You can't simply tell them to change it overnight. The engines are already built. The cars are already designed around those engines. Any change would require significant redesign work that could take months. There's also the question of fairness. Mercedes played by the rules. They asked the FIA if their design was legal, and the FIA said yes. Banning it now would essentially mean punishing them for being clever. This creates a dangerous precedent for future innovation. Rather than completely banning the compression ratio trick, the FIA might allow other manufacturers to implement similar solutions. Over time, everyone catches up and the advantage disappears. This approach maintains the integrity of the rules while eventually leveling the playing field. Red Bull technical director Ben Hodgkinson has been clear about his team's position. He says their car is completely legal and complies with all regulations. The loophole exists in the regulations, and it's there for all teams to exploit if they're smart enough to find it. The problem is that finding it and implementing it are two different things. Ferrari, Honda, and Audi didn't discover this interpretation until it was too late. Their 2026 engines are already designed and built around a different concept. They can't simply copy Mercedes overnight. It would take months, possibly an entire season, to redesign their power units to incorporate this technology. The compression ratio trick might be allowed in 2026, but banned from 2027 onwards. This gives Mercedes and Red Bull their advantage for one season while ensuring the playing field is leveled going forward. It's a compromise that doesn't fully satisfy anyone, but avoids the legal nightmare of retroactively banning an approved design. The January 22nd meeting between the FIA and all engine manufacturers will be crucial. This is where the governing body will discuss the situation with all parties and potentially reveal their plans. We might get clarity on their intentions after that meeting. For now, Mercedes and Red Bull are in a strong position. They have a legal advantage their rivals can't easily copy. Whether that advantage lasts the entire 2026 season or gets neutralized mid-year depends entirely on what the FIA decides to do next. This creates an interesting dynamic for the season ahead. If the advantage remains, we could see Mercedes-powered teams and Red Bull dominating early. Ferrari, Honda-powered teams, and Audi will be playing catch-up, hoping either the FIA intervenes or they develop their own solution. This controversy highlights the constant tension in Formula One between innovation and fairness, between rewarding clever engineering and maintaining competitive balance. Mercedes found something brilliant within the rules. The FIA's response will shape not just this year, but potentially how teams approach rule interpretation for years to come.